Everything looked normal that Tuesday afternoon. The baby was quiet. The dog wasn't. Thea Nakamura had a master's degree in pediatric nutrition. She had counseled over 300 families on infant feeding. She understood the signs of distress in babies at a clinical level that most parents spend years trying to develop. She believed, reasonably, that this translated into knowing what was wrong with her son. It didn't. Atlas was a 3-year-old Bernese Mountain Dog, 110 pounds, who had arrived in the house 6 months before Ezra. He was a calm dog, slow-moving for his breed, inclined to find a patch of floor and stay there. He had accepted Ezra's arrival with the equanimity of a dog who had decided his household's developments were not his to contest. For 8 months, he had maintained a respectful distance from the baby. On the 4th of the month, that changed. Ezra was in his bouncer on the kitchen floor when Atlas crossed the room and lowered his nose to the baby's face. Not a greeting. A slow, deliberate inhale, nose pressed close to Ezra's mouth and cheeks, held there for 6, 7, 8 seconds. Then Atlas backed away, sat, and looked at Thea. She redirected him. He came back. By the second day, it was happening 5, 6 times per hour. Atlas following the bouncer from room to room, pressing his muzzle to Ezra's face, holding, withdrawing, returning. Ezra was not distressed. He watched the dog with the wide-eyed neutrality of an infant observing something novel. But Thea was distressed. She knew what obsessive dog behavior looked like around infants. She had attended 2 seminars on early warning signs. She had read that fixation preceded incidents. Her husband, Ramon, came home on the second evening and watched for 10 minutes without saying anything. Then he said, "He won't stop." "I know." They agreed it was jealousy, resource guarding of the attention Ezra had redistributed away from Atlas. Thea had the framework to make it clinical. She used the word fixation in a text to her mother. The word made it concrete. It made the decision feel responsible. They kenneled Atlas in the back bedroom on the 3rd day. He sat at the door and made no sound, which was somehow worse than scratching. If you stay for stories about what animals sense before we do, you're in the right place. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Thea had switched Ezra's formula 3 weeks earlier, a gradual transition to a new brand recommended by their pediatrician for its iron profile. She had made the transition correctly. She had monitored his digestion. She had observed no adverse reactions by any of the clinical markers she knew to check. By every measure she had been trained to apply, the transition had gone smoothly. On the afternoon of the 3rd day, 42 minutes after Atlas went into the back bedroom, Ezra's face began to flush, not the pink flush of warmth. A spreading mottled red that moved from his cheeks to his neck to the skin above his collar in under 4 minutes. His left eye swelled slightly at the inner corner. He made a sound Thea had not heard him make before. A strange, short exhalation that happened again before she reached him. She called 911 while picking him up. Dr. Soo-Yeon Park, pediatric allergist at University Hospital, saw them that evening. Her assessment: anaphylaxis. Caught early. Ezra had a trace milk protein allergy of a specific subtype not detected by standard newborn screening. The new formula contained a milk-derived processing agent at a concentration low enough to pass labeling thresholds, but high enough to trigger a systemic immune response across repeated exposure. The reaction had been building for 3 weeks. Has your dog ever done something that made no sense until it was the only thing that made sense? Tell us in the comments. These stories deserve to be heard. Dr. Park explained the chemistry with the precision of someone who has said it before and finds it remarkable every time. Anaphylactic reactions as they build across repeated allergen exposure produce measurable volatile organic compounds in a person's exhaled breath. Lipid peroxidation byproducts, specific aldehydes. The changes are systemic. They are expressed through the skin, through saliva, through breath. A dog's olfactory system can detect these compounds at concentrations that precede visible symptoms by hours. Atlas had been reading a chemical story in Ezra's breath for 3 days. He was pressing his nose to the baby's face because the story was changing, getting worse. And on the afternoon the story reached its final page, he was in a back bedroom with a closed door. 42 minutes. Every guardian deserves to be recognized, even the ones who never ask for anything in return. If stories like this matter to you, subscribe so you never miss the next one. Ezra came home the next morning with an epiglottis monitor, a new hypoallergenic formula, and a test appointment in 6 weeks. Atlas came out of the bedroom when Thea opened the door. He walked to the bouncer, lowered his nose to where Ezra had been sitting, exhaled once, and lay down beside it. Thea sat on the kitchen floor and didn't say anything for a long time. She had a master's degree in pediatric nutrition. She had counseled over 300 families. She had not known what Atlas knew. She had kennelled him for the knowing. He didn't hold it against her. That part is harder to sit with than the rest. The next story involves a husky who blocked the back door every time a toddler approached it. Nobody found out why until a child safety officer walked the backyard.